until it was accomplished. His dying breath has brought me life. I know that it is finished. I will not boast in anything. No gifts, no power, no wisdom. But I will boast in Jesus Christ, His death and resurrection. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. Why should I gain from His reward? I cannot give an answer, but this I know with all my heart: His wounds have paid my ransom. 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 All these pieces broken and scattered, in mercy gathered, mended and whole, empty hand.
Hello, hello, hello. Hey, Pat, yell at them out there. Maybe your wife, too. So, hi, thank you for coming back. Where are you going? Maybe you could put it right there on the other side of that table. Nice. So, definitely want to cover a few more things and leave a little bit of time for question and answer. So thanks for sticking around. Hopefully Jonathan is recording this. He's back there, right? Yes, let's pretend. So it will be on the line. I get this question a lot from people, so I should bring it up. Every time we live stream something on YouTube, it's automatically recorded. So you don't have to wait till later to go back and find it. Okay, so later on in the week, we take the sermon and splice that out and put it up as like a regular video. In fact, Michaela does that. Good job, Michaela. But the recording of the live stream itself is right there right away. So if you're online and you go to our homepage on YouTube, the Faith Reform page on YouTube, there will be a little tab there that says live. If you click on it, it will have all the past live recordings that have ever happened. So even this, if you wanted to go, what did he say when he said that thing? You could go back and look at it. So, or if you didn't want to wait until Tuesday or Wednesday when the sermon gets posted, you could go see it. It's right there, right away. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit more about Jibit Shah and what it looks like to partner with Jibit Shah. So, you say it. No, she says it better than I do, so you have to wait.
So we learned how to say it. It's Jibit Asha. You got to slow it down. Yaakov said, slow down, Drew. It's Jibit Asha. The emphasis of the ah is on the first syllable of Asha, not Jibit Asha.
I tend to put the S and the H with the first A, but the S and H go with the second A.
Jibit Asha.
Jibit Asha. Everybody say Jibit Asha.
Jibit Asha.
Ooh, nice. Very enthusiastic
There you
too. So that's the organization that Yaakov and his father started, and Yaakov is helping to run, and Beth Knoll is on the board. Where's Beth? There's Beth. So if you have more questions about it at some point, Beth is on the board. They're planting churches, transforming lives, doing different things. So we have partnered with them over the years. One of the ways we partnered with them is to help build this children's home. And I think, so I want to get right into it. If you're wondering what the children's home looks like, I put together a little 4-minute video tour of the children's home. And so hopefully the volume's loud enough. There's going to be echoing because my voice is echoing through the halls. It's not professionally done. All apologies, okay?
Children's home, and you can either go up, down, or into the quote living room, and there's living space, but I'll come back because I want to take you on a tour through the basement first. Down in the basement, they have a giant available area to play in, but they also have their eating space here. You need plenty of room to eventually have 10 kids. There's the house, Dad. No, it's a Genesee. And this is the kitchen. But yes, if you want to go downstairs on this main floor, there's a giant living room, including a bookshelf with all the books that we read, and Andrew's reading those. And there's a bedroom. And another bedroom. And then on this side, it's the house parents' bedroom. It's one of these rooms. So I'm not going to take you in there, but these are 2 restrooms. So yeah, very nice, very nice. And we can also come from the main door and go upstairs. You see how nice these floors are in the stairwell. Amazing kind of marble stairs with a very sturdy handrail. So yes, when we come up on the 2nd floor, this floor is currently vacant because the house parents and all the children are going to sleep on the Say on the first floor, you saw all the bunks in those rooms, but here's another kitchen. So this is one of the 3 kitchens in the house and the 3 living rooms in the house. And there's extra space here to host if pastors come to stay for training or anything else, or even youth groups could come here from across the state into the States and stay here, have 2 bathrooms, and be able to stay. They haven't developed this bedroom yet, but eventually that will have some beds in it. But yes, this is a guest space. We'll go up to the 3rd floor, and this is where the Garoons live, all the way up here. You can see they have a living room space. And there's Vima. Say hi, Vima. Hi. And they have a kitchen space. And then they have bedroom spaces. And Ephraim and Evan are back there.
Guys, can you say hi?
Say hi. And they have a big bookshelf.
Yeah.
And then, if you come up past the 3rd floor, and if we go up on the 3rd floor, no, you get up onto the roof, and you can.
So yeah, there's your less than professional tour. Yeah, it's deceptive. If we go to the next slide here, the first slide of the next ones. It's deceptive because from this angle, it looks like this might be the entrance or front door. That's not really true. Once you go back here, there's a driveway that goes down, and the main entrance is this floor right here. So there's a basement under here, and that's where there was that common space and a kitchen and that sort of thing. All the house parents and all the kids live on this same floor, and there's 4 bedrooms there, but no kitchen. And then this guest space is not being used except when guests arrive in town. They were expecting some guests the night we left, actually, to come and occupy some of that. They're still looking to fill some of the bedrooms with beds and all that sort of thing. And then Yaakov and Vima and Eben and Ephraim, they live up here on this 3rd floor. So any questions while we're looking at the children's home? Yeah, John. How are the 2 boys adjusting to life in Nepal? They are not adjusting very well. So if you don't know it, Yaakov came to study at Calvin Seminary, which was about 13 years ago, and then they had their kids in the U.S. So those kids are American kids. They like American food, they like American conveniences, they are very American, and so living back in Nepal has been quite difficult for them. So if we name some of the other difficulties, that's one of them. Yaakov and Vima are hoping they will adjust to life in Nepal, and they see some signs of that happening. And yeah, other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dawn. Well, we made some financial contributions to this becoming a reality. Including, like Andrea mentioned, the one VBS, we raised the money for those beds that you saw there. So things like that. I just meant we made financial contributions to it. There are a lot, he said, who else supports it? Well, there's a lot of churches that help support Gibbet Asha. There's a lot of churches that help support them. Jack can say more. Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if it was built for this, but Yaakov said they would build that for $285,000.
Yeah, they ended up building it for $230,000. Yeah. And then with the value of the property, he said it was about $340,000 to $350,000 to build the whole thing. So, and it's very nice. Like those marble stairs and the whole thing's pretty nice. Just doesn't have an HVAC system, so that's why we had to buy some space heaters. Yeah, Fred. He asked if we were able to have a goodly number of English conversations in English with other people. And yes, a whole number of people. So for instance, at that pastor's training where there was, 70 people there, there was probably 20 of them that could speak some pretty decent English and interact with us. And then a whole slew that really couldn't. So we sat to dinner with them and kind of had a little bit of awkward pigeon talk. Didn't make it very far. Rich.
When you went out to the remote churches,
Yeah.
did they have any knowledge of English? Speaking English, or was that?
Some of them, he's asking in the remote churches that they have knowledge of English. Only some of them. For most of them, their exposure to English, especially as adults, is through their cell phones, right? Everybody has a cell phone, and they can watch videos on TikTok. And in fact, I could say something about it later, but when we got to the trekking bit, one of the things that happened on the trekking was that we stayed in these dining halls at these guest houses, which basically like hotels, but everybody gathered in the dining hall because it was cold, and there was a place with a fireplace. And we were around there one night, and one of the guys, who did not speak very much English, then just started singing the lyrics to all sorts of different English-based songs. He knew the popular artists much better than we did, like Bruno Mars, and he knew all the lyrics, and we're like, well, I don't know. Joe.
It's perhaps worth noting that the kids are in an English-speaking international school that the English started. And so pray that they have friends that will welcome them, and they'll start acclimating to their situation better.
Yeah, so Ephraim and Eben go to an English-speaking school, an international English-speaking school that's a Christian school, and so that does give them a sense of the West. It's very much based on England's educational system, so it's not even sort of Nepalese in that way. I wonder if I can keep covering some things, and then more questions can come up, okay? Unless you have a specific question about the children's home.
Sue?
The children's home? She's wondering where this is. This is the one that's in Kathmandu. There's another one in Bharatpur. John? He asked, are they hoping to have more students, or is it at capacity? They're hoping to have 10 at each one. So they've got 7 at each of them right now. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Nancy. They're trying to get you on the microphone.
Oh. Ooh. How do they get the children or find out about them?
How do they get the children or find out about them? Almost all of them are word of mouth. So, like for instance, at one of those rural church plants or something, somebody will say, hey, we know this girl, she's in a bad situation, she needs to get into a different situation, can you help her and take her on? So almost all of them are word of mouth like that. So they've all got different kinds of stories, the stories that you might think, and some stories that you might not think. So one of them was under danger because the stepfather was a predator, and was looking at her too much. Two of them, their father was murdered in his village, and the mom was having to work all the time, and the grandmother was not a good caretaker, so both of those were taken out of their, different situations like that. Jack.
Can you tell them how Vima and Yaakov met and why they're so interested in children's homes?
Yeah, so if you don't know the history behind it, Yaakov and Vima were brought up in a children's home and met in a children's home, and there's a lot of history related to all the Christians in this group related to the children's home. We eventually went on a trek that was led by 2 guys who were essentially Vima's little brothers in the children's home, not by biological, but by, they were just some younger people in the same children's home she was in called Hope Children's Home. So there's a lot of history around children's homes, and it's a great way to reach some kids. It's a great way for people to be introduced to Christ, to come to these children's homes. So, Scott. Is there a legal assignment of the children's home?
Like would be foster program or something here?
Yeah, there's something related to that. I don't know all the stuff about the paperwork, but it's definitely not as well organized as the United States.
Definitely not.
Yep. The elevation in Kathmandu is 4,400 feet. So it would have been nice to be there and acclimatize a little bit, but we were only there for one day, and then we went to the lowlands where the altitude is like 600 feet above sea level, like here, basically. And but let me tell you a couple more, okay? Let me give you some more stuff. So in the past, we partnered by helping to purchase those beds right there. It was humbling just to see what they have. Like 4 girls are living in that room. They don't even have a chest of drawers, right? They don't even have a closet with clothes in it.
They have one little shelf.
They have one little
for
shelf.
all of their belongings.
So each kid just has like one shelf in this kind of bookshelf thing. So not a whole lot. We've also not only purchased the beds, but hey, we helped to partner by sending all these things. They very much appreciated all these books in English. Those hats were made by Sarah Peterson. We purchased those jackets that they're wearing. So it's just another way that we've partnered with what's happening there. This, of course, is the other children's home in Bharatpur. Then also partnering by, as we mentioned during the sermon, they're going to do a little music education. It was kind of fun to see this after being part of New City Kids, where New City Kids is doing, the keyboard education. And that was part of what inspired us after we saw the price of the good one, and there was a little bit more in the budget than what the price of the good one was going to cost. We're like, Andrea's like, you should have 2 so that the kids can bang on one that's a little bit less quality and be taught while the other guy's teaching. So that was good. Got some space heaters. So these are all ways in which you have helped to partner with what's happening there in with Jibet Asha. And I just want to just name it out loud because it's going to be named, it was already named before the missions team and also will be named before the deacons. Hey, here's some other needs that we might be able to meet as a church. First of all, a bunch of those church planters that we met have a need for transportation. Everything from motorcycles to regular pedal bicycles. You saw the motorcycles all over in some of those videos, but also a tuk-tuk, which is like a taxi. So the one pastor we introduced you to, Joshua, would really appreciate a tuk-tuk so that he can have an alternate source of income. So basically, he's like a taxi driver, Uber driver around his town, and he can then do that when it's convenient for him and then do the pastoral care and the sporting ministry that he does. So there's some opportunities to meet some real needs there. There's also the opportunity to sponsor individual children. So each one, they really are just getting the children's homes up off the ground. And what they want to be able to do is have individuals or families sponsor each one of the children, because even those girls don't go to public school. They go to a special private school. It's not as elite as the one that Ephraim and Eben go to, but it's a special private school that costs, like $50 a month or something?
Something like that.
And so just like you might sponsor a child through World Vision or Compassion International or something, they're going to be looking for sponsors for individual children in the near future. So we'll convey that to people if you're willing to sponsor some of those little girls that were in the photos. We also showed you a picture of a young couple that built their church on the second story of their house. And the way in which they built it, it still needs this roof solution so that they don't suffer from the heat. They're used to the heat much more than ourselves, but it is way too hot to worship on that second story if it's hot and sunny out. And so they need a roofing solution that's going to cost a little bit more money than they just have lying around. And so it's another need that we could meet. Also, one of the things that basically happened here on our journey is that Andrea and I paid for part of our trip, and that we were sponsored by the church for part of the trip. Technically, the church reimbursed us for our plane tickets, but I like to think of it the other way. We bought our plane tickets, and then the church helped pay for all this other stuff that happened, including those domestic flights that we took, including paying for Yakuv's brother-in-law to drive us around, including hotel rooms, including food. There was various expenses. Yakuv it needs some of those travel funds for himself. So we kind of paid for him to go visit all these church planters. We paid for us to do it, but we paid for him to do it too this time around. And so there's need for travel money for Yakuv. That's another thing that's happening. And then there is this big ticket item. They're estimating that they can build a children's home in Bharatpur terrible.
Bharatpur.
For cheaper than Kathmandu. So like we said, it was probably about $350 for the one in Kathmandu, and they're thinking it'd be between $250 and $300 to build one in Bharatpur, and that's land and building. And it'd be in a much nicer building than the building they're in, and they'd be in a different neighborhood than they're in right now. So it's stuff worth contemplating, other needs that are out there. But even more than that, there's also ways to participate. So part of what we were doing was not only going to greet them and learn about what God's up to in Nepal, but also then to come back and say, hey, how could others get involved in what's happening over there? So let me just list out some of the types of trips that we could have. One is the kind of thing that we just did that was pastor and leader training. So we were sent there to encourage those planters, but also to be part of that training that took place on November the 10th. They would appreciate any sort of ongoing training, and they're in the process of trying to make Jibet Asha into basically a denominational. It's mostly been a church planting movement, and they want to expand it and make it more formalized. And that's coming from the church planters, not from Yakuv. The church planters want to be able to say, hey, we're part of this movement, we're part of this thing that has this name and this brand, and they want more sort of oomph behind it. So they want some support with that. But there's other things. Yakuv would love it if doctors and nurses would come over and sponsor medical clinics. So you've seen this, many of you have seen this in other ways that we do mission. Rick was going to Honduras for years on medical missions trips, but basically they would love that same thing. There's a pretty high need, and you could go set up a couple medical clinics and help them meet some of the physical needs, but also in the process of having some of the people in various villages come out to the medical clinic, obviously witness to them about the gospel. So I happened to mention that we had, like, hey, an infectious disease doctor, and hey, we had a podiatrist, and I was like, do you have a need for a podiatrist? They said feet are a huge issue, right? Because they don't wear many shoes, and some of their feet are real tough, but some of them have some real issues. So there's possibilities that exist. And in conjunction with that, I want to say really quick, we were told by Yakuv, hey, if you're going to come around the world, you should come for at least 10 days because of the jet lag thing and all that. And I will just say, we adjusted very quickly to the time there. And then after those original 6 days, 1 day in Kathmandu and 5 days in the lowlands that built up for that training, we were like, is there really going to be a whole nother week to this trip? We're exhausted and felt like we had experienced so many things with those church planters. We're like, we could go home right now. So I'll just say that I feel like there's a possibility to pack some things in and have a day and a half of travel on either side and maybe make like a 9-day trip. I will also say that this week has surprised us how difficult it has been to get back on Eastern time. So as much as we felt like, oh, this could be over and we could go back and just adjust back to Eastern time, I don't know if that would have worked. This past week has been crazy. Yeah, question, Suzanne. Yeah.
And I was wondering, we're not ordained, we couldn't do pastor leader training. What could we do?
Let me get to the next points here, Suzanne. So she's asking, what could we do? So yes, there's a need for medical clinics. One more thing before I get to you, and that's that there's the possibility for a youth intercultural immersion. One of the things that complicates the youth thing is that June, which is typically a good time after school gets out to maybe go do something, like we're going to have the little local mission trip here in June 2025, that is a terrible time to be in Nepal. It's the rainy season, and you can't go at that time. The best times to go are in October, November, and February, March. And so I would love it if we thought about, if you want to be a youth that goes, maybe skipping some school and going. It would be a very valuable experience. And then we come to Suzanne. The other thing is come and see. There are not a whole lot of opportunities to come and do. Of course, there is if you have, some medical capacity, or you can help the doctors who are doing that sort of thing, or if you can do some leader training. But more than anything, they would love for people to come and see. We did have conversation with them. Hey, Jack and Beth are ready to come over. What are they going to do when they come? And they're like, we just want to show them. We want to show them what they're helping to do, what they help to build, what they do as a board member. We just want them to come and see what God is up to. And that would be the point of a trip if you, for a lot of us, is come and see what God is up to. I mean, that was a huge part of what we were doing, right? Going to these villages and seeing the legacy of Yakuv's father and seeing all these church planters and what they're doing and the vision they have for reaching people for Christ. And there was a whole heck of a lot of come and see. We got to bless them in return in some ways, but we were blessed more than they were blessed.
Yeah, when Drew says they, he means Yakuv and Vima. So Yakuv and Vima were saying, we would welcome anybody to just come and see what's going on. So you'd be immersed in the culture, you'd bear witness to what's happening in all the different places, and you wouldn't have to contribute in some sort of Western way that we all like to contribute. You can just go and be blessed and see what's happening.
Yeah, and obviously do some sightseeing. If you're not up to the trekking thing like we did, you could still. Sue. Yeah, it's on now.
Okay, what's the political situation in Nepal? And do women have to be afraid to go outside by themselves?
Yeah, the political situation is that it's very corrupt. The people have been in the government have been in it for a long time and don't do enough. Very little infrastructure. As far as we could tell, the women do not need to be afraid. There is a lot of cooperative effort, though, and you very rarely see people out by themselves. A lot of people know about the cultural thing of people, you'll see young teenagers holding hands, like teenage boys and teenage girls holding hands with each other. I think that's partially hey, this is the way we survive on these roads, because I'm going to keep track of you and you keep track of me. It doesn't look like they're totally paranoid they're going to get hit by a moped or a car, but it helps. What do you want to say about that?
Yeah, I just want to say I felt very safe in Nepal. And Yakuv gave testimony to that. It's a very safe country. You don't have to be afraid of being murdered, shot, whatever. It is a very safe place.
Oh, very safe. Very little crime.
Yeah, very little crime. So, even on the crazy roads, I felt safe.
Yeah, they've worked it out. I mean, it's chaotic. The system is that there is no system, but they all understand that there's no system. Barb.
You talked about the one home that's surrounded by suspicion of the different, the religion there. What is the future for that? I mean, do they have to worry about what's next there? Or are they going to get thrown out?
It's a possibility. So that was one on the slide where Drew had the big ask. Yakuv and Vima would really like to buy a piece of land in Bharatpur and build a children's home so that they don't have to lease their building anymore. So yes, they are concerned about the future. They don't know how long they'll be welcome in that neighborhood and in that home that they're leasing. So the long-term goal is to get them their own building owned by Jibit Asha.
We felt guilty because, hey, they're already suspicious. Now there's these white people coming to this building. Don.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Hey, is there the denomination affiliation that you're talking about? Is that the home churches wanting to organize a national church of Nepal, or being adopted by a Western denomination?
Oh, yeah. No, they do not want to be adopted by a Western denomination. They want to organize their own and become, it'll be a Nepali-based denomination, yeah. Other question? Eric?
How does the caste system affect the potential for Christianity there?
Yeah, how does the caste system affect the potential for Christianity? Yeah, there's not much persecution in terms of sort of violence. It's mostly ostracization. And so that's a big issue in and of itself is, hey, you're going to go join these people that are of a lower caste. And so there's a lot of social shame associated with kind of leaving the family, leaving the caste to go be part of this thing. So there's a lot of social pressure if you leave, because you might get kicked out of your neighborhood and kicked out of your house and that sort of thing.
Yeah, like your family will disown you if you become Christian and they are not. Oftentimes, you get pushed out of the home and out of the neighborhood.
So we showed you the house dad at the one children's home, and that he was of a different caste than who he married. And at first, some of his family members disowned him. They were very upset. His own core family, some of them have become Christian now, but he said some of his aunts and uncles are still mad at him. So the social ostracization is a huge deal. Another big deal in the conversion thing is that all Nepali people, well, in general, Nepali people think all Americans are Christians. And so one of the things is most of the Americans going to Nepal are tourists who want to explore Buddhism and Hinduism and go hike the mountains, right? They're not the Christians. But the Nepalis assume Americans are Christians. So these people are coming in, Americans are coming in and exploring the monks' temples and all this stuff. And so then when somebody goes to convert, somebody else will say, why would you want to be a part of that? They want to be a part of us. Those Christians want to be a part of us. But they're talking about the American tourists who are coming to explore Buddhism. So they're like, why would you want to do that? So that's fascinating.
But there is some sense of people in lower castes being seen and understanding their worth and value as they convert to Christianity. So the higher caste people might be thrown out, ostracized, but the lower caste people are finding a place where it doesn't matter what caste they're part of. They are a valuable person to God. So that's another dynamic.
Deb Pasco. Do they have schools for the lower caste children? Yeah, a lot of them end up in the public schooling system.
Which is apparently not great.
Yeah. What's that?
Safe? Is it safe?
Yeah. I mean, like we said, the whole country seems to be very safe. I mean, there's very little crime. It's much more cooperative, less individualistic. So one of the things that I kind of wanted to come back and show is the state of youth athletics. Like here in our country, youth get a lot of attention. In that country, youth do not get a ton of attention. Instead, elders are respected, and elders get the most attention. And so the state of their athletic facilities is all of it pales in comparison to United States kind of stuff. And so it's just fascinating to see a culture that's not so youth obsessed. Our whole culture is pretty youth obsessed. Even in pop culture, the most popular singers, the most popular athletes, all of them are like in their 20s, right? That doesn't exist there. Go ahead, Bethany.
My question is about Yakub's kids. So they came to the States and then they moved back. Is part of the struggle finding their place? Like, have they changed castes since they have higher education, have been in the U.S., they come back, now they're at an international school with probably...
Yeah. Mostly with expats. Right. So I don't think they experience much of the caste system themselves.
And they don't change caste. The caste that the Gurungs are part of is their caste. They're like kind of middle of the road caste.
Yeah, and it's set.
But I think that the most difficult part is culture shock, because they've lived as American children for their lives, and now they are being expected to live as Nepali children. Learning Nepali, they don't want to speak Nepali, they want to speak English,
They understand Nepali. But you saw in the upper room of the children's home, they've got a big TV there, and it's like they don't have cable, it's like they have Spectrum, but they have internet, so that's their way of staying connected too. So they not only play games, all the Fortnite and stuff on the internets, and watch YouTube and stay pretty connected to American culture. So that part's weird too. On one hand, it feels like you're in this totally other place, and other hand, kids come home from school and play on their Xbox. That's weird.
I think it's just typical. It takes a little while to make new friends, and It's just going to take them a little bit to fit again.
How old are they now? 12 and 10 or?
12 and 10, yeah. 12 and 10. Ephraim is 12, Eben is 10.
Oh, they just slid in
Just a
July.
couple months ago. Yeah, they've just moved over there a couple months ago.
And they will probably come back for high school to the United States. David.
Are the members of the different casts readily identifiable? Is it visually apparent by way of dress, grooming, or in other ways?
Somehow they know in a way that we did not.
It was not visually apparent to us. Maybe if we would have asked more questions and learned more about that, it could have become more apparent, but it was just like, take their word for it.
It's definitely that people who looked a little bit more what we would think of as Indian versus those that looked a little bit more Asian. The Asian were lower. But Beth has comment.
One of the interesting things about the Hindu religion is you are born into your caste. And as a Westerner, I couldn't even become a Hindu because they wouldn't even know what to do with me because my last name is Dutch, you know. But everybody's last name clearly identifies what caste they're in. So like Yakub Gurung, he's from the Gurung tribe. He's in this caste. And he can marry down, but you can't marry up, generally speaking.
But Vima's in a higher class.
Yeah, Vima's in a higher class.
Vima!
She's in a higher caste.
So can I share some other things with you here?
I'm going to sit down.
What did we have next? Oh, I think this is a little video of some of the worship, but also some of the music that gets played. So there was special music that we talked about at the one church service. They also will just start playing music during that training, pastor's training. While there was downtime, they just like led sing-alongs, and people will just like, hey, anybody got a song? And people go for it in a way that's pretty fun. So. So yeah, some just a little snapshots of music and worship there in Nepal. That last guy was was our favorite guy that was leading that last song. He was amazing. Suzanne?
That you told us to watch was This Is the Day.
Right.
And
This is the day.
We used that one with DRS in Florida.
Oh yeah.
Same.
Yeah. With World Renew. Yeah.
I noticed the men on one side, the women on the other. What's that all about?
Yeah. So they split up the worship with men and women on each side. You know, a lot of some cultures do that. Some conservative Christian cultures do that, right? Separate them. So even you could be biblically faithful and greet each other with a holy kiss and not kiss somebody of the opposite gender, and stuff like that. But you also notice that the center aisle was not in the center, right? Because there were so many fewer men than women. And you see that a lot of the young men have left the culture to go make money and send it back home. But yeah, I think it's as much of a cultural thing as, you know, a biblical thing or something like that. Other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dave. Just gonna wait for the mic.
I just had a quick question on your hiking up in the mountains. Were you at all affected by the altitude?
Yes, we were very much affected by the altitude. Can I tell you about that in just a second? Let me just cover some things real quick. Can I have that T-shirt? It's under my coat. So food in Nepal. So this was the breakfast. The very first day we arrived at 6:45 a.m. and checked into our hotel. In America, you can't check in until like 2 p.m. No, we checked in at like 8 a.m. and got the breakfast they were serving that day. Toast, potatoes, that sort of thing. And later that evening, we went to a restaurant that's kind of down the hill from that children's home in Kathmandu. And they have their own like fish farm there. And so we scooped the fish out, and then they just cut it up and put the whole fried fish, all the parts and pieces, right there. And that's the thing. They're pretty American, even in Ephraim, but one of them ate the fishtail. That doesn't feel very American boy to me. So we had some fish, just boom, right there. And you saw this meal we talked about at the first celebration. And then you want to talk about, it looks like you're eager to talk about dalbat.
No, I just want to make sure you keep moving. It's afternoon.
I know. This is the main staple food in Nepal. It's called dalbat. Dal is lentil like soup mixture. It's this green thing back here. So nutrient rich, and then bat is the word for rice. So they combine the lentil soupish thing and the rice with other things, including in this kit, and usually mustard greens, and then some potatoes and other sorts of vegetables that are fried up, and some sort of meat option, and then some of these other things are pretty spicy. And so we had dalbat, 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 dalbat all through the south.
Pretty much you eat it for lunch and dinner. You just eat dalbat. It's what they eat.
Yes. So then we learned that there was this phrase that they use actually in English. They say, dalbat power, 24 hour. That if you eat the dalbat, it gives you power for 24 hours. And we learned that from Yakuv. And then we went other places without him, like including the trekking. And I would say, dalbat power. And the other people would respond, 24 hour. Like everybody knew it. And then at the end, we were like shopping for souvenirs, and I got a shirt.
Dalbat power, 24 hour.
Dalbat power, 24 hour. So dalbat. And then here, we went to, this is at that remote village down that riverbed where we met that female pastor, dalbat. And here, they did just serve up all the chicken, including in Yakuv's bowl here was the chicken head. So we got all the parts and pieces and got that whole experience. That was fun.
Yakuv, he's just eating, and he's like, oh, look, you guys, the chicken head. And he just pops it in his mouth. And I'm just like secretly putting my meat over on Drew's plate. I just can't. Like, I'm not going to just eat the chicken head. But Yakuv, he was all about it.
And the morning we went to Yakuv's brother's church, his wife prepared this meal. Dalbat. And the special meat on this one was water buffalo.
Yeah, because cows, they don't do beef. Cows are gods in the Hindu culture, but they do water buffalo. So yeah, we had water buffalo, which I was also shoving over.
Some of
Drew's
it was like normal looking beef, but she definitely passed me something that was like water buffalo heart. It had a different consistency. It was like turkey.
Give me all the rice and lentils, but.
So there it is. There's the water buffalo. It looks like beef, right? And then that's the lentil soup, and you just sort of mix it all together and.
Just pour it on and.
Dalbat. Even at the pastor's training, we had buffet-style dalbat.
Every meal.
Dalbat.
Every meal, buffet dalbat. That's it.
I need more
That's
dalbat.
it, Nancy. We need the dalbat.
And then we went up in the mountains, and this fried Tibetan bread. Oh, it was amazing. They did do a lot of this sort of boiled egg option.
And tea, lots of black tea.
Lots of tea.
We drank lots of tea in the mountains.
And then when we ate with the kids, when we came back down, we had curry. So this was egg and potato curry option. So that's just a little food. Oh, and we went to a fancy Western place. This is chicken cordon bleu that was like all fancy schmancy and $5 American. It was super good. So that's the food piece. This is like, go ahead, Jack. Can you keep my microphone on? Oh, we had to be very careful of drinks. Linda, who just left, Linda Rates was asking me about that because Linda and Rich just went to Cambodia and Vietnam and had to be very careful. A bunch of people on their trip got sick. We did not get sick. It seemed like she got a little sick, but maybe because of the altitude.
Mm-hmm. We only drank bottled water, or we brought along water bottles that had a filter. So you could fill it, and then you push down the filter through the water bottle, and it comes out all lovely. So, yeah, we did not get sick from drinking, but we were very careful. And we also did not eat raw vegetables, raw fruits, because we didn't know what they were washed in. So we ate cooked food, and we drank filtered water, and we were okay.
And Yakuv was very helpful in that regard. So even if they like put out an apple that maybe got washed in a certain kind of way. The one place with that church planter guy with the pink sheet and the yellow sheet and the green sheet, they put out apple and an orange. Well, the orange is peeled from the,
So Yakuv would say, you guys, you may eat the orange, don't eat the apple. He would tell us what to eat and what not. And he's like, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about not eating certain things. Just.
You paid a bunch of money to come over here, stay healthy. So we did. Driving in Nepal was crazy. I do feel like we're getting to like some time limitations, so you can watch this video some other time maybe.
It's fun though.
It is kind of fun. I'll let it play a little bit.
So you just drive right through where people are walking, where there's motorbikes. You just go. You just drive.
One of the pieces that Tricia had said to us before we leave is like one of the mottos on a trip like this is safety second. Like, don't worry about your safety. And I feel like in this culture, a bunch of like American people would have a really hard time. In some streets where we were traveling much faster than this, we're just poking along trying to make our way through here, but much faster, I saw a dad and a little kid walking along the side of the road, and the little kid was only like this tall, and the kid was actually on the traffic side, not on the like building side, the traffic side. But they just have utter confidence that nobody's going to hit them. And we saw 0 accidents, and we drove through crazy traffic.
But Yakuv made it clear to us, he's like, we all live here. We're just all in this together. We all watch out for each other. Because I was like, we need a pedestrian lane. We need a bike lane. And he's just like, no, we're just all here, and we all have to be mindful of one another. So totally just a different culture of what it means to be a person in community. You look out for, you don't run over somebody.
Yeah, and there was honking constantly, but it was always like ringing a bell on if you're on the TART trail. Like you're just letting people know you're coming. You're not, the honking in anger was very rare.
Yeah, people were not honking because they were mad.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
This is cruising down a riverbed, and those 2 people in front were like guiding us because we didn't know where we were going. Yakuv had never been to this church before, and they're just like taking this little moped through the water, getting all wet, and then they fell over at one point. Yeah. And here's the road right near where Yakuv grew up. That is a road that's been under construction for 6 years. It's because the government is totally corrupt, and they start projects that they don't finish, they don't have the right financing for. I can't even explain to you how many like giant rocks are in all the roads, so you can see how much the car is bumping along. We experienced, so many different parts, and lots of parts is where white people do not experience. Like I said, this whole time, this is in this southern area in the flatlands, we did not see a white person for 5 straight days that we were there. Whereas we saw plenty of white people going to the mountains and that sort of thing. This is also under construction. See all the cones and all the construction equipment.
So it's just torn up and it just gets left that way. And then you just drive on it.
There's going to be a guy coming up on a bicycle on the right. We saw all sorts of people on bicycles and motorcycles who were wearing rain ponchos to try and just keep the dust off their clothes as they go from one town to the next. We're going out to see this Pastor Joshua on this one. Just crazy. More of it. And you got to watch out through the dust that you don't get hit by a bus. Some of those people took a bus, like we said, to the pastor's training meeting, a bus like that one that just passed for 16 hours just to get to that
on roads like these.
On roads like those, yeah. And this is the Thursday, the last night we were in Kathmandu during rush hour. It was just, controlled chaos. Yeah, there's cones there. Stay in your lane. We saw multiple ambulances with their lights on, and that's what that is in the distance to the right there. There's an ambulance. I don't even know why they put their lights on. Nobody moves out of the way. They're not getting anywhere any faster. So.
Yeah, you better just move on.
Yeah, so if you go past this video to the next slides, I do want to just say something about trekking really quick. Just some, as best I can. We woke up on the Monday after that training, and we were ready to go at like 8 or 9. We had a 10:45 flight out of this airport to go near the trekking mountains, and Yakuv was not communicating with us. Well, we finally caught up with him and found out that he was feeling sick and had a migraine. So we're in the lobby of the hotel at 10 a.m. We have a 10:45 flight at some airport. I don't even know where.
Vima told us we needed to leave by 9:30, so we were like operating under, okay, we're ready. We were supposed to leave a half hour ago.
He's just got his head in his hands. He's feeling terrible. Then he gets up and he's like, I think I need to vomit. He runs across this courtyard to the bathrooms, throws up. So now it's like 10:05, 10:10. We're like, are we even going? And he's like, I feel much better. So we finally call a taxi. The airport calls us and says, hey, are you guys coming? I was amazed at the customer service. Like, calls Yakuv, says, are you guys coming? We're like the only ones not checked in for this flight. We get in this taxi. We show up at like 10:35. There's like no security. You just put your bag down. It goes through something. You don't even know if the person's paying attention to it at all. So we got right through, got our tickets, sat down at whatever, 10:42 or something like that. The moment we sat down, they're like, okay, time to board, because they were waiting for us. And so then we board this flight at 10:45. So we made our 10:45 flight. It's crazy. So we got there. There's the hotel we were at. And so we got there, and Yakuv still wasn't feeling well enough. So he left us with these 2 guides. And
he's like, I trust these guys. You guys okay? You okay? We're like, I guess. And then just Yakuv said goodbye, and we were in the hands.
And he had all our money. He hands them this giant wad of Nepali rupees, and the one guide's got it in his pocket. It's so obvious he has this giant wad of cash. So then we take a Jeep. Yes. So this is a map of some of that region, and we posted this on Facebook, but this is the route that we took. So we started Monday morning in Bharatpur, which is that elevation 682. We took that flight with Yakuv, but then he left us in Pokhara. And that's the elevation there. Then we took a Jeep, which was crazy because the geography of Nepal is like straight up. This Jeep ride we took up to 6,900 feet was pretty intense, and then back down because there's no guardrails, and you fall off your 3,000 feet. Like you just, so that was kind of fun, but safety second. That was the point. And so we got dropped off at this place, and then, I put it on the wrong thing there.
It's okay.
Sorry, that yellow piece goes over on the blue line over here. Anyway, so we got dropped off at 6,900. We hiked up, and so same day, and finished our hike in the dark at Forest Camp, which is 8,500 feet. And then the next day started climbing to High Camp. And so you asked about elevation. It was on the way to High Camp that we really were feeling it. Thank God, Mr. Christopher Ledke ordered us a prescription of altitude sickness medicine, and we had read you can take it preventatively, like don't wait, you can actually take it and it starts opening up your capacity to take in oxygen. So we had started taking it, but you can also take it episodically. So when we got to about 10 grand, Andrea's was starting to really feel it. Took a little pill, half hour later, feeling great. Made it to High Camp. So made it to High Camp at 11.6, and then and all the while, stairs. Thousands and thousands of stairs, because you're just going up, 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 up. The amount of stairs was really intense. And along the way on those stairs, you also encounter things. This is further up there on some stairs. But the ways they get things up to the
to all the camps
and guest houses.
The mules.
Poor mules have to carry.
They just bring everything to all of they bring the eggs and the rice, and you just step off the trail, and here come the mules.
So you had to avoid a lot of mule poop, which our guide kept constantly calling cinnamon buns, brownies. Wait till you get back to America. Do not eat these brownies. And it was so great, our guide, he knew that we had to get this plane ticket on the back end of it, so he found out my middle name, which most of you probably don't know my middle name, but it was for the plane ticket. My middle name is Brown. And he was so confused because, why your name is Brown? We are Brown. You are not Brown. Your name should be White, Mr. White. And then he found out that I had my PhD, so then he started calling me Dr. Brown. And so the whole time he was calling me Dr. Brown and her sister. Like sister in Christ, you know. Dr. Brown. Come on, Dr. Brown. He was awesome. Anyway, so we saw some mules.
But yes, then the day we were supposed to go up to the top, Dave Taylor, we got up at 3:30 in the morning. And then you start the hike in the dark so that you can get up there before the sun rises and the clouds come and obscure the view. But I started that hike, but I could not get my breath, and I thought I was going to throw up. Like, I just felt sick, so I turned around. Drew kept going and finished up to the top, but I turned around and went back down to High Camp because I was feeling terrible.
Yeah.
I couldn't breathe, and I felt like I was going to vomit. And the altitude medicine wasn't helping, so I ditched that last hike.
Yeah.
And I just went and slept for 3 hours while Drew did it.
Yeah. And Sujan is the one on the right. It sounds a lot like Susan, but it's Sujan.
Susan is how he said his name. Susan.
Susan, and which means good people. And then that's Suban on the left. He carried all of Andrea's pack, which was sweet. He was like a porter. And Suban, and his name means good speaking. So Suban and Sushan were our guides, and Sushan was amazing. But Suban didn't participate in that last hike at all. Sushan went back with her, so I was just like on my own in the dark.
But it was just a trail of people.
A trail
going.
of like lights, people with
Headlamps.
headlamps trying to get up there. So I just got behind this other guide and this woman, and they were just plodding along, and I was just like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, I think part of the problem was you took off too fast at the start, and I was like trying to catch up with you.
Trying to hoof it.
Yeah.
So they're not Sherpas, but they do this as a profession, guide people all over the Annapurna region, but also Mount Everest and stuff. So they've taken some pretty big hikes. This is taken with the night view on my iPhone. So this is pitch dark. You can see somebody with a headlamp right here that's up a little further, but that's Annapurna South and some stars on the way up there. And then this is, you could see the sun coming up. This is called Marty Viewpoint, and this is 14,100 feet. And you can see there's some tea houses up there, which was great because it was freezing. You could see the frost on the ground. So we had some hot tea and checking it out while I got up there before Sujan caught up with me. But these are famous peaks. This one's called Fishtail, because if you look at it from the left side, it looks like a fishtail. And this is Annapurna South, and other Annapurna peaks are back there. Annapurna's like second to Everest kind of thing. And there's the sun coming up over Fishtail. So that was pretty crazy. There's 14er, man. Lots of people in Colorado, they want to hike all the 14ers. That's the only 14er I've been up. There you go. Yeah, not even halfway to Everest, right? It was 14.1 or 2 right there, and Everest is 29. I mean, that's crazy. But even here, the concentration of oxygen is like 60% of at sea level. So anyway, there we are, and this is hiking back down the next day. You can see how far away Fishtail is, and we're still hiking.
And we hiked down that day.
Yeah. Well, we hiked down partially that day, but this picture was taken the next day. Yeah. But the theology of Genesis 1 proved to be true on this trip. The theology of Genesis 1, right? God creates all these things, and what's the pinnacle of God's creation? People, right? Male and female, humankind. And that's what we encountered on this. Like, as awesome as those mountains were and some of that view, it paled in comparison to our experiences the first part of the week and seeing all the people of the Nepali churches. And then on the trip itself, the thing that we liked the most was our interaction with Susan. And the thing that we liked second most was being in these places. Every one of the guest houses had a dining hall. So you'd order food and eat right there, but they also had a fireplace right in the middle. And so it was so cold that, the one camp we got to at 2 p.m., well, until we ate dinner and went to bed, everybody was around that fire, and the people that we met.
Because that's the only heat. There's no heat in the guest rooms. It's just right there in the dining hall. So you just hang out there with whoever else is doing a hike.
Yeah.
That was very, very, very fun.
Yeah, so I felt like she had a therapeutic moment with this Dutch lady who was going through a lot of grief, left her 4-year-old and 7-year-old with her husband, and came to Nepal to process her grief. And Andrea got to have a conversation with her. But at that same place, we also met all these Mennonites. So this is a husband, wife, and child right here. They're from Ohio. This guy's from North Carolina. This guy's from New York. This guy's from Canada. And it was just really fun to meet these Mennonites who were there in Nepal long-term on a humanitarian mission. And they
set up water for different villages, and they help bring medication to the villages, whatever else. But we got to hang out with them. And the little boy and I did endless cat's cradle with this. I don't know if you've done cat's cradle with one of those strings. Oh, my goodness. Yes, just over and over and over again, this little boy wanted to do cat's cradle. So that was fun.
Yeah, and he clearly was on the autism spectrum. And so imagine not only a kid who likes to play it, but a kid who really likes to play it. Like, oh my gosh. And he's only 7, and he climbed up to that 14er with all of them the next morning. So I saw them all up there. And I had no cash and no guide with me, so actually the one guy bought me a cup of tea. So that was just really fun. We could tell stories forever about the next night when we met these people, the people around the circle. One girl was running away from her family and came to just hike
She was 20.
the mountains.
She just had run away, and she ran away to hike in the mountains.
With a handbag.
She just
climbing up in the mountains.
Yeah. Regular clothes and a handbag.
This other Korean-American couple from Seattle that were like age 60 and were just doing this as a prep hike because the next time they were about to go on a 68-mile journey to Everest and all sorts of stuff. And he was just wild. He was, and there was a sing-along around there. And like we said, they knew the lyrics to all sorts of songs, including 2 of them knew all the lyrics to an Eminem song, which, one of your favorite rappers. So it was very interesting to meet all those people, but we didn't set out to go to Nepal to go on a hike. It was Yakub's idea, and so unfortunately he couldn't make it, but we were grateful to do it. It was fun, and we found this little place where I guess you're supposed to kiss.
No, there was a heart.
I know. So that's it. That's all. That's mostly what we wanted to show and answer any sort of Q&A. We could talk for a long time, but it is 12:25. So thanks for coming and being here. And yeah.
Thanks for being interested.
Go in peace. If you want to hear more or you want to hang out and have lunch, we're all about that. Let's go. Yeah, Dalbat.
Dalbat.